You're listening to The David Knight Show.
Welcome back. You know, we look at President Trump's presidency and we look at how he's reversed himself from candidate Trump in terms of support of foreign wars. We ask, what's going on with this? Is he being misled by the people around him? And I would say we get a big clue as to what's going on when we look at what Mike Pompeo, formerly the CIA director, now the Secretary of State, had to say a week ago at Texas A&M. Now, this is something that most of us missed. It was picked up by a Christian news organization and then picked up by Zero Hedge. That's where I saw the write-up about it. But it was absolutely amazing what he had to say. And remember, as we play this clip for you, this is a guy who has accused WikiLeaks of being a non-state hostile intelligence agency manipulated by Russia. Do you believe that? I don't know that you're going to believe anything that Mike Pompeo says after you hear this clip. We've got that repeated by all the major news organizations, all the establishment media, the Mockingbird press. Remember Operation Mockingbird from the CIA, getting the establishment media to give you the news straight from the CIA. Now we've got former CIA people, former NSA people, Clapper, Brennan, others. You know, now they've actually are the talking heads, the commentators. They do it directly. They don't even try to hide it anymore. Just like for the longest time, you had the CIA giving money to corporations that would be useful for them, that they could use, that would do their dirty work. And then in the late 1990s, they got pretty open about it. They set up their own venture capital firm, and they started openly investing in these corporations and advertising for sycophants who wanted money, who would do their work. And so now we've got their commentators on the mainstream media, but they still have the Operation Mockingbird issues out there. But I want to play for you this clip where he's talking about the difference between the culture at West Point, where he was a student, and the culture at the CIA, where he was director. One of them was a culture of integrity. The other one was a culture of lies and deception. Here's Mike Pompeo a week ago at Texas A&M.
There are many, many tough places out there. Having said that, not all tough places are the same. They each present a different set of challenges. It reminds me, you would know this this is a bit of an aside, but in terms of how you think about problem sets, when I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses.
They're applauding that. They like that. Isn't that interesting?
It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment. And so when you deal with these countries, you have to just recognize they're not all the same. Some of these difficult, nasty places want to partner with the United States and just haven't gotten to the right place yet, just haven't been able to move their own institutions. And some.
Okay, now that is absolutely amazing. It's amazing the crowd reaction. Yeah, everybody knows that the CIA lies, cheats, and steals. It's just kind of amusing when you got the former director of the CIA saying that they lie, they cheat, they steal. And he said when he was at West Point, we were told you will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. But he not only tolerated them, he became part of that culture. He talks about this. I want to play that full clip for you instead of just that little bit of a clip there contrasting West Point to the CIA. I wanted to play that full thing for you because he's talking about different problem sets that you come up with, different cultures, different institutions. And he said we have to realize when we deal with all these countries that they're not all the same. I guess what he's meaning is that some of these places are difficult and nasty places, as he said. So maybe some of the countries that you deal with are kind of like the CIA. I guess that'd be like Saudi Arabia and so forth, right? They're very much connected to the CIA, and they do business the way the CIA does. They torture, they dismember people, they lie about it. But then you have other countries, I don't know where those countries are, that are like the culture of West Point. I don't know what country that would be anymore. I used to think that America was like West Point, where we didn't lie, cheat, steal, or tolerate those who do. But now our country is governed by the CIA. Understand that. And we do lie, we do cheat, we do steal. And when anybody exposes the CIA lying, cheating, stealing, torturing, murdering, those people are the ones who go to jail, like John Kiriakou. Not the liars, not the cheaters, not the assassins. It's the people who expose it who go to jail in America. And so he was saying we have difficult, nasty places that want to partner with the United States, and they just haven't gotten to the right place yet. And they haven't been able to move their own institutions. So is he saying that we haven't been able to, the nasty, difficult place that we have is the CIA, and we haven't been able to get them to where West Point is? Did he move them in that direction? Or did you just go along with them? I think when you look at that, he just went along with them. I don't see any change in the CIA. Frankly, I don't see any change in Washington either. Because President Trump put Gina Haspel, the lying, cheating, stealing, murdering, torturing CIA bureaucrat, in charge of the CIA. So yeah, we're not moving them to the right place yet, are we? We're not moving them at all. Instead, the nasty institution, the CIA, is moving the rest of the American government in their direction. Just to underscore that, I want to play another clip for you. Let's get clip number 2. He talks about the cultural challenges, institutional challenges when he used to run a tank platoon and so forth. So let's play that clip number 2.
The second piece is cultural. Inside an institution. I have run a tank platoon. I was an executive officer in a cavalry troop. I ran 2 small businesses, then was the director of the CIA, and now I'm running the State Department. Every organization has to have an ethos, a central mission set that is clearly understood. So
you understand that every organization has to have an ethos, a central mission set that is clearly understood. Everybody there at that Texas A&M speech, everybody there understood when he said, at the CIA, we lied, we cheated, we stole. They understood that is the ethos of the CIA. That is their mission statement. And it is clearly understood. Everyone in foreign countries understands that. And unfortunately, we in America understand that. And we tolerate that. We tolerate that. You know, Frank Serpico, and most of you remember the movie where he was played by Al Pacino. But Frank Serpico, real life Frank Serpico, said every institution is going to be comprised of people. Whether it's the police, whether it's the CIA, whatever. You're always going to have bad people in any institution. The question is, will the institution purge the bad people, or will it embrace and protect the bad people? That's the real issue. Frank Serpico's tried to get police departments everywhere to purge the bad people. Except in most cases, they protect them. They circle around them. You know, somebody's in uniform and they do something, no matter how illegal, no matter how criminal, they protect them. That's what Frank Serpico saw. That's what he's trying to stop. And that's what we have done with the CIA. You look at it, and time again, what we see, whether it is John Kiriakou at the CIA, whether it's William Binney at the NSA, the people who are blowing the whistle on illegal activity, criminal activity, they are the ones who go to jail. Never the people who are actually engaged in the corruption. It's the whistleblowers who go to jail. That's why our institutions in America have become so, we have embraced this lying, cheating, stealing ethos. That has become our mission statement. We have embraced the corruption. Our institutions are thoroughly corrupt from top to bottom. It's not a couple of people at the top who went after President Trump. It is the entire deep state. It's very broad. It's very dark. And we have all embraced it, just like you heard those people applauding. All right, I got another couple of clips here from Mike Pompeo. And this is a question and answer period. He's talking about and kind of openly talking to people at Texas A&M. This is a week ago, again. This is pretty much under the radar because of what was happening at the same time. We had Notre Dame burning. But basically, Mike Pompeo burned the CIA and himself. As I just played for you in the last segment, he said, when I was at West Point, the cadet motto at West Point was, "You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do." But I was also CIA director, and we lied, we cheated, we stole. That was the entire training course, he said. And the audience loved it. The audience embraced that. Not everybody, quite frankly. The Christian news show that picked this up said, that's not the resume of the Secretary of State. That's the resume of Satan. And it is. It is. And I want to tell you what he had to say about being director of the CIA in conjunction with the false flag gas attacks that the CIA and the deep state were using to try to rope us into a deeper war with Syria. He's quite proud of the fact that he was able to lie, cheat President Trump, and deceive him into launching an attack in Syria. Here's play video clip number 3.
In this job, I was the director of the CIA at the time when Bashar Assad had used chemical weapons against his own people. Your government was able to, in the course of a very eventful 36 hours, do all the groundwork that was needed to make sure that we could respond, to let them, the leader there in Syria, understand that this was unacceptable and this administration wasn't going to allow the use of chemical weapons, Assad to use chemical weapons against his own people. We moved quickly. We moved accurately. The Department of Defense did its task flawlessly. It was a demonstration of American capacity to move in crisis moments in a way that is very effective.
It was an example of how you can have the entire bureaucracy come together to get the president to do something that he said he would not do. That is continue to push this operation in favor of al-Qaeda. Understand, when you attack Assad in Syria, you're siding with al-Qaeda, just as John McCain did. And we had seen this on an annual basis. That's what's inexcusable about this whole thing. That they would do this on an annual basis, and that the mainstream media would join with the CIA, join with the Defense Department in pushing this false flag on an annual basis. They did it 3 years in a row. And last year, on the third year, they upped the ante and they put in a fake narrative about nerve gas poisoning in the UK, which was equally absurd. They had to do something that was different. And immediately you had Nikki Haley join in with Theresa May to lie to the British and American people to try to get us involved on the side of ISIS, to be their air force and so forth, and to launch attacks against Assad. This is part of the regime change. Very dangerous game that the CIA plays. They side with ISIS for a while and then take out ISIS, and then they want to weaken the Assad government so much that they can go in and do their regime change, which has been on the list of things to do for about 20 years. And this list has not changed, regardless of whether we have a Republican or a Democrat president, regardless of whether that president is President Trump, who said he wasn't going to play that game. And I want to play you one more clip here where they're talking about the Syrian chemical strike. Here is Mike Pompeo again talking about how they sell false flags.
I talked about the Syria chemical strike. The first in the barrel to respond to that was the CIA.
Oh, he owns it.
The president wanted to know immediately, were they really chemical weapons that were fired, or was this, right? We all seen YouTube videos that turned out not to be true. What were the chemical weapons actually fired by the regime? Did they actually hit civilians? What was the magnitude? What was the scope? What was the nature of those chemical weapon systems? Before he could make a decision or even consider a recommendation by his Secretary of State about how to respond, he needed to have best-in-class data. And we were under the gun. The CIA, the intelligence community, doesn't get things right every time. It has a history. It's made mistakes. It's imperfect like the rest of us. So we were under the gun. The president gave us just a handful of hours, and we deployed an amazing team, and a team of chemists and physicists and engineers and battlefield experts and explosive device experts and folks who spend their whole life looking at potholes in the road to decide what it was that actually created that.
Pause that right there. Pause that right. This is a guy who says that the CIA, they lied, they cheated, they stole. Now, when he's talking about the pothole, we've shown the picture many times. We've had chemical weapons experts showed the pothole that had the exploded canister in it. The canister was crushed. It was not part of a ballistic launch that was there. That pothole that he's talking about was actually evidence to show that it was not the Assad regime that did it, but that it was done locally. And so he lies and refers to the very evidence that mitigates against the narrative that they sold the president. Absolutely amazing. And of course, we have all seen the YouTube videos. And the very first time they tried this, 4 years ago, again, they did it three years in a row. This is the first March they haven't had a false flag gas attack in Syria. But they did it 3 years in a row, just as the Assad regime was wiping out a concentration of ISIS. Then presumably they come in and use chemical gas against civilians so that we will go in and attack Assad. Yeah, right. Those are the geniuses at the CIA. No, they're not stupid. They're just evil. They just lie. They cheat. And they try to steal our government from us. And they have. They've been very effective at stealing our government away from us. But in the very first one, we organized people and said, you don't want to be al-Qaeda's Air Force. They're trying to rope us into this. They're trying to create a narrative to draw us further into this war. And of course, they didn't need to have our approval. They went ahead and did it anyway. They set up a dozen different bases, 4 airfields in Syria, thousands of troops. We still don't know how many. They did that all without the approval of Congress. And evidently, they were able to get the various presidents to sign in on this. President Trump or the others, we don't know who put the troops in there. President Trump said he was going to get them out. They still haven't come out. But they were pushing this narrative. And when he says, we've all seen the YouTube videos, it turned out not to be true, it was their narrative that turned out not to be true. That very first year, for example, you first had Russians that were saying they were skeptical along with the Syrians. Then you had the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons and European organizations. And finally, it was the Pentagon itself that said, no, it wasn't a chemical gas attack. And there wasn't anything about this that said that it was Assad. But that is how he lies. Yeah, we had to get all this intelligence together. We were under the gun. We had to do this very quickly. They had to do it before anybody really took a look at it. It's just like the Skripal poisoning. They immediately pronounced that it was nerve gas, and they knew that it had come from Russia. And yet they said, well, we're going to have to put a team of investigators on this, about 500 people, for a few months to take a look at this. Welcome back. Yeah, are they going to get rid of all the rich? Well, they may do that. They did that in New York. And now there's no rich no more there. So everybody's paying high taxes. No, we're taking a look at what Mike Pompeo said. Breathtaking statements he made a week ago at the University, the Texas A&M, and saying, I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. And I was just playing for you when he was talking about, we had the Syrian chemical strikes. Yeah, there you go. It's director of the CIA. And he said, the president wanted to know immediately, were those really chemical weapons that were fired? Is that right? Did they actually hit civilians? Did they kill children? Is that all real? Oh, we had a lot we had to put together, and we got all that put together. And it was a place where you see a perfect example, he said, of America's military and diplomacy and intelligence. In other words, the military-industrial complex, the deep state, all working together to deliver to the President of the United States a clean set of options based on real data from the people who lie, who cheat, who steal. They have an entire course on that. He was bragging about that. Yeah, that's exactly what they do. And so as Paul Craig Roberts points out, he said this last Wednesday, he heard an NPR report that described the democratically elected president of Venezuela as Venezuelan dictator Maduro. And as Paul Craig Roberts said, by repeating over and over that a democratically elected president is a dictator, the prostitutes create the image of Maduro in the minds of vast numbers of people who know nothing about Venezuela, who've never heard of Maduro until he was dropped on them as a dictator. And he points out Maduro was elected president of Venezuela in 2013, again in 2018. Previously, he served as vice president, foreign minister. He was elected to the National Assembly in 2000. But despite Washington's propaganda campaign against him, those people who lie, cheat, steal, murder. He left out the murder part, the torture and murder. Pompeo didn't talk about that. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they would have laughed at Texas A&M. I don't know. I'm surprised that they laugh at the lying and cheating and stealing stuff. The antithesis of West Point, where he went to school. Nevertheless, despite Washington's propaganda campaign, writes Paul Craig Roberts, against Maduro and Washington's attempts to instigate violent street protests and Maduro's overthrow by the Venezuelan military, whose leaders have been offered large sums of money, in spite of all that, he said, Maduro has the overwhelming support of the people, and the military has still not moved against him. So I don't support Maduro. I look at that. We can look at what's happening to his country. We understand, I've said many times, he's a thief. He's evil. I would want him out if I was there in Venezuela. But I'm not in Venezuela. I'm not a Venezuelan. It's not our place to throw him out. And I hope President Trump is not deceived by this coalition of the military, the intelligence community, and the State Department that Secretary of State Pompeo, former director of the CIA, was bragging about how they had deceived President Trump and the Syrian gas attacks. Now, he doesn't portray it as that. He says, oh, yeah, we put all this stuff together, and we came to those conclusions, and we knew exactly what was happening. Instead, lying about the pictures of the pothole and stuff, which proved exactly the opposite of what they lied to the president about. It was so helpful to have John Kelly controlling what President Trump could be allowed to see, isn't it? As Paul Craig Roberts points out, the opposition to Maduro inside Venezuela comes from the elites who've been traditionally allied with Washington to loot the country. And these corrupt elites in Venezuela, just like the corrupt elites here in the United States, using the CIA's help, temporarily overthrew Chavez, but the people and the Venezuelan military secured his release and his return to the presidency. And so it goes. And so then we come to our country. And we have, as RT points out, the Mueller report that everybody's been talking about so much, takes Russian meddling for granted. But it offers no actual evidence. In the same way that they took the chemical gas attacks in Syria, or the supposed nerve gas attack where nobody died with Skripal. Eventually, somebody died months and months after that by getting a very concentrated part of that. But if it was nerve gas, they would have died. The people attending them would have died long before the guys showed up in the hazmat suits for the photo ops. But anyway, as they point out, this Mueller report asserts Russian interference, and the election did happen. And what did it consist of? Well, they said it was a social media campaign, as well as Russian military intelligence. And they talk about the fact that the Mueller report continually refers, and this is kind of interesting, they use an old Soviet-era name, GRU, to refer to Russian military intelligence. The Soviet Union, here's a news flash. You're going to hear it exclusively on this show, because you're not going to hear it anywhere on CNN or MSNBC. The Soviet Union fell in 1989. It's very different now. The Russian Confederation is not the Soviet Union, in spite of what the Mueller report tries to push. So they would repeatedly refer to Russian military intelligence by the Soviet-era name of the GRU, and they said that it hacked the Congressional Campaign Committee, the DNC, the private email account of Hillary Clinton's campaign chair, John Podesta. And we know that that is all a lie, because we've had the honest former global technical director of the NSA, William Binney, and others say, no, technically, those files could not have been created in that period of time by hacking over the internet. Those files were transferred by a whistleblower on something like a thumb drive. Nevertheless, here's their case. The Mueller report says the Internet Research Agency, the IRA, you keep hearing about the IRA, ran an active measures campaign of social media influence. They had 470 Facebook accounts that made 80,000 posts, and that tampered with the election. What a joke. What a joke. So all of that, we had 80,000 posts. Forget about the fact that Google is tampering with the election, that Google is labeling the California Republican Party as a white nationalist Nazi organization, that they label Unplanned, the movie about Abby Johnson and her work at the abortion clinic. They label that as propaganda, but they label Leni Riefenstahl's Triumph for the Will, that was done as a propaganda film for Adolf Hitler. This is not Goodwin's Law. That actually was a Nazi film, but they label that as history and art. But, Unplanned, that's propaganda, according to Google. So, yeah, those people, they didn't throw the election. It's not like Google and Facebook and Twitter manipulated the election with their artificial intelligence and their shadow banning. No. It was 80,000 ads or 80,000 impressions, tweets that did that, according to the Mueller report. Let's take a look at what some of the liars are saying today. We've got John Brennan here. Let's play video clip number 11. He knows that it was still Russia.
Collusion is obvious. A criminal conspiracy is unknown.
There's collusion in plain sight. Donald Trump at the end of July openly called on Russian intelligence to find Hillary Clinton's emails. There were engagements at the Trump Tower.
Satire.
There were the back and forth between various individuals who were affiliated with the Trump campaign and Russian individuals. That collusion, I think, is quite obvious and apparent. What the Mueller team is doing is trying to determine whether or not the engagement rises to the level of criminal conspiracy, whether they violated the law.
All right, that's enough of him. Yeah, that's the former director of the CIA, John Brennan, who supported the drone assassination attempt. He called program. It's not an attempt. They did quite a few of them. Called it not a kill list or an assassination list. He called it a disposition matrix. Now he says it was collusion in plain sight. Yeah, we see the collusion. We see the collusion in plain sight between Brennan and British intelligence, between Brennan Clapper and the DNC and MSNBC. We see all of that collusion. Still lying to us, and you still have the Mockingbird media letting him do it openly, open collusion with them.
DNA Force Plus, our most advanced formula yet. DNA Force Plus is focused on overhauling your body's cellular engines and supporting your optimal energy levels while adapting your body to handle the daily bombardment of toxins. DNA Force Plus contains a combination of the best adaptogens on the market to help your body adapt and bend, not break. Hand-picked adaptogen herbs help protect your body on a cellular level. It's time to try the newest version of one of our most powerful formulas yet, with DNA Force Plus. Available at InfoWarsLife.com today.